on all of those stories, plus many more, from my guest joining me in the studio still throughout the show, former Conservative Government Advisor Claire Pearsall. Morning.
Good morning.
We've got PMQs coming up in an hour.
Yay.
Peter Cardwell's going to join us. I think we're pretty darn sure that Kemi Badenoch's going to go on the issue of the budget. I mean, she'd be crazy not to. So let's start with the budget just in this hour. Economists at OECD, they're warning of low growth, higher bills, unemployment staying at 5%, which is, high for Britain. That's high, and it's not like it's high unemployment but no one's on disability or incapacity benefits. We got unemployment down for years, didn't we?
Yes.
But we had a load of people on those benefits. Now we've got more people on those benefits and higher unemployment. This isn't good. Meanwhile, weirdly, we're still importing hundreds of thousands of people from the third world to come and do jobs in this country, which apparently we can't find anyone to do. I'm very confused.
Nobody can add up, can they? This government appears to be completely fiscally incompetent. They cannot even add up a simple list of numbers.
Rachel from accounts can't add up.
Shocker.
Shame on you.
I mean, I think I'm better than her and I'm rubbish at it.
Exactly.
But
all I've got is an O level.
yeah, GCSE, hello. But it just
she's
sort
been
of,
young at me. You just younged at me. I was last year of O levels.
At the moment, I feel
Call
like...
in if you did O levels, same as me.
Can we have
Make me feel better.
A little tally chart of who did what? Maybe we could teach her how to do those as well. But it is... I know. Don't know what's the matter with me today. It's just, fired me up. I think that they need to understand if you tax businesses, then they are not going to employ the amount of people that they would have employed previously. Jobs taxes never work.
They don't. They really, I think, genuinely don't understand. No one in this government has actually ever run a business, has any experience. I don't think many of them even worked in the private sector.
They
if you put a tax on, extra national insurance for each employee, and you put a minimum wage and the living wage and the minimum wage, and so by a huge percentage point, was it over 8%, wasn't it, for under 18s or under 20s? I mean. Then you're adding on the cost. It's an extra £1,500 a worker. What a surprise! They're going to hire fewer of them. Sorry, but what was complicated about that? Why is anyone surprised?
And it's been the situation for time immemorial. If it's going to be too expensive to employ somebody, then businesses aren't going to do it. If you're going to tax them to kingdom come in every which way you can, with business rates, corporation taxes, national insurance, income tax, the whole lot, all in one go, and then you put the burden of paperwork onto these people as well, they're just going to turn around and say, right, we're shutting down, or we're just not going to employ.
And the same with people's personal finances as well, where everyone's being taxed more and more. They're changing, they change how pensions are taxed, they change how this is taxed, how that is taxed, your ISAs, your whatever. The people can't make any long-term planning. No. A lot of thing about business and also people's planning for their future and savings is about investments or things you're planning to do for not just 6 months or a year or 5 years, but for 10, 20, 30 years. Yeah. And you can't make any plans. So people go, well, I just won't bother at all. I mean, and that is the real worry, isn't it? What do you make of the latest shenanigans of, the Office of Budget Responsibility boss leaves, utter incompetence on his part of that leaking, and just total absolute lack of security around this budget document. But he's now... he's gone, but two of his aides basically threw the Treasury Permanent Secretary under the bus, saying, well, he approved this OBR report that exposed Rachel Reeves for having basically lied when she told the public that we were all going to have to give up on this manifesto commitments and raise taxes. I mean, the plot gets thicker. I'm trying desperately not to cough. Sorry.
That's all right. Yes, it does. I mean, it keeps on giving this particular report, doesn't it? So you've got the head of the OBR that's gone, and rightly so. They've got an IT system which is
unbelievable.
So basic, it is unbelievable.
I've got an IT working husband who literally went, are you kidding me?
Yes. Did he say WordPress? No one uses that.
He said some words I can't repeat on air, but he was flabbergasted, I think anyone who works in IT would have been.
Yeah, I mean, even my son, who's 17, just sort of rolled his eyes and just went, why have they not got security around that then? Yeah. And it's like basic things like that. But you do wonder why everybody is now trying to chuck someone else under the bus. Who are they trying to protect in all of this? Because essentially the buck stops with the Chancellor and then the Prime Minister.
And yet she hasn't gone, and she is still there. And we're being warned by the OECD, we're going to have lower growth, higher bills, inflation up, unemployment up.
Such good news.
I mean...
never-ending good news, isn't it, in this place?
Remember, a laser focus on growth.
And they were
laser focused on. Barely mentioned in the budget, interestingly. Very little mention. I mean, it is extraordinary. They're in the wars. We could be facing war with Putin. Vladimir Putin has said, and I do think this quote, I mean, he chose to just sort of come out and make this quote: Russia has no intention of going to war with European countries. I mean, that's like your husband saying, I have no intention of having an affair.
Yeah.
Why are you saying that? Why did that come up? I just asked you what you wanted for dinner. You know what I mean? You know, Russia has no intention of going to war with European countries, but if Europe starts a war, that escalated quickly. Russia is ready right now, and then Moscow will have nobody to negotiate with. Europe, he says, has no peace agenda and is now hindering US efforts to resolve the conflict. Now, this is after the latest round of talks we've had in Moscow. Steve Witkoff, the President Trump's envoy and golf buddy, and his son-in-law Jared Kushner, who's rather saner and more sensible. They've been in these talks with Vladimir Putin. Nothing's come out of it. Basically, there's a 19-point plan from the Europeans. There's a 28-point plan from Russia and the Americans, and they ain't going to meet in the middle because the Russians basically want to have all the territory they've conquered, plus a whopping great tract of territory more, which they haven't conquered. They don't want Ukraine. They want to halve Ukraine's army. They don't want to join NATO. They basically want to leave Ukraine wide open for another future attack. After Crimea, then the Donbass, and then the rest of Ukraine. And nowhere the Europeans can agree to that, nowhere the Ukrainians can agree to that. But now this is quite a lot of sabre rattling. We're ready for war. We know that we're not ready for war because the Defence Select Committee did a report on that the other day, and everyone agrees we're not ready for war. So what happens next?
It's difficult to see that we're going to get anything positive out of the talks. That, I mean, obviously they fell apart with Putin, but Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are now going to speak to Zelensky and have a nice chat with him, which will be a much more positive experience, I'm sure, all round. But I don't think that we are going to get any further forward.
No.
There is just nothing that anybody will put in front of Putin that he will agree to. He wants Ukraine, I think, as a whole, not just the Donbass. He'll never settle with it. And then he'll move on. And Europe is looking at his target. But it's interesting how it's always someone else's fault. Putin saying, oh, well, Europe has no peace agenda. It's just pandering to all of this. And it's like, well, hang on a second. We're not hindering the US.
Yeah.
You're the one who's hindering the rest of us by not agreeing to absolutely anything that's put forward.
It is incredibly frustrating that Donald Trump just doesn't put his foot down. We know that we could. I mean, we talked to lots of guests and experts on this subject, and we'll talk to another guest in only about 20 minutes' time about this. But it is just extraordinary. Simply, absolutely, any country that buys the gas or the oil of Russia, you are now unable to, not forget the tariffs, you're unable to trade with the West, end of. By the way, Germany, stop buying Russian gas while you are funding the Ukrainian war effort, you're funding the Russian war effort at the same time. Or just, they're just literally cancelling themselves out. But we could stop this war. We could dry up every single penny of funding that goes towards this war pretty much, within a couple of weeks, if Russia wanted to, which America wanted to, Europe wanted to. I'm still amazed when they announced another sanction here, another sanction there. Every single one of those sanctions should have been in place within 2 weeks of that invasion. End of, nothing to discuss. The West has really got to get its act together because we are dealing with very wily and very dangerous men in the form of the likes of Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping of China, the mullahs in Iran, Kim Jong-un doesn't seem to be going anywhere in North Korea. We've got a lot of people we need to be learning how to deal with. And we've got to be stronger, we've got to be more united, and we've got to be willing sometimes, to take a hit ourselves so that we don't have to go to war. And our caller earlier, faking, I don't want to go to war. No, I don't want anyone to have to go to war. But you have to be willing and able to go to war to prevent a war from happening.
Of course you do. And I think that you're right. The sanctions just on paper are not really worth it. Why don't we start taking the assets and actually putting them back into Ukraine?
Every single penny in those European banks from Russians should have been spent on the war effort. Not a penny of our taxes.
Properties, yachts that have been seized, all of it. That needs to happen because that will focus some minds. Because we haven't done it, we've only threatened.
The US plan is to give that money back, for God's sake. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Ridiculous. It really is. It's all kleptocratic. It's all, this is all, dodgy money anyway. And by the way, especially London as well, our banking system has been propped up by basically dodgy Russian money for a very, very long time. And, it really shouldn't have been. I'm sorry, it really shouldn't have been. Let me come back to Hillsborough because we spoke to Mike Neville, who was involved in that Hillsborough over sort of investigations. And that report we had yesterday, I mean, it's just report after report after report. I think the key moment really was the inquest way back when. It would have been, 10 years ago, but best part of. Where it was very clear ruling, absolutely clear ruling that there was no, there was no, misdeeds by those who lost their lives. Those 97 who eventually ended up losing their lives, the Liverpool fans back in 1989. But the news that there are 12 police officers who would have faced gross misconduct charges, but because they're either dead, obviously can't face them, but because they're retired now, and the rules are that, at the time, if you retired, so this is what used to happen, you get accused of something, you take retirement, you keep your pension, you go away quietly, nothing to see here. But this is like, well, no, it doesn't matter how many years later. If you did something wrong and you smeared people and you did stuff that cost people's lives, and you didn't try and save lives, you should face misconduct charges.
I met a couple of the families just on the terrace at the House of Commons when they were here for one of the judgments, and they had both lost a son and a daughter, young people. And you can't imagine, can you, how that feels, and all these years later to still keep talking about it, to have nobody actually held to account.
To have your child, not just to lose your child, to then be blamed.
Yes.
Your child to be blamed for their own death.
And they showed me, a photo of them, and it's just heartbreaking. And they are so determined to get this justice for other people.
Yeah, I know some people go like, "Oh, come on, it's 36 years ago, move on." Yeah, like we'd move on if it happened to our kid. My daughter goes off to the football. She goes to football matches. It's like, do you have any faith that the police have improved at all?
Not
in terms of their willingness to actually do things properly and not cover up.
No, not hugely.
Me neither.
Because this whole point of having a duty of candour, you would have thought that was just a basic part of police life.
Basic part of being a half-decent human being.
Well, yeah, there is that. Just as
we so need to get to a culture in this country when it comes to things going wrong in the police, and things will go wrong. We accept that there are going to be bad people in every walk of life, and but whether it's in the NHS, whether it's anything that goes wrong there, or a pharmaceutical company, or whatever it is, anything that's the disaster, or people lose their lives, or whatever it is, we need to have a culture which is that black box culture, where people own up. So this in the airline industry, basically the general culture is, whether it's air traffic control or whether it's there's a plane goes down, everyone cooperates. Like, what happened? And there is this. I mean, I'm wondering, how much more it will last, how long it will last with all the public scrutiny. But just like we all benefit from finding out what actually happened. We need to know what actually happened, not just blaming a pilot because he had a bad marriage or something, or blaming this or that, but what actually happened, so we can learn lessons. We never seem to really find out what's happened until many years later. People seem to lie, they cover their backs, they join arms, they circle the wagons, they try and blame everyone else, try and keep their jobs, keep their pensions, and we never learn the lessons.
But isn't that the most frustrating phrase that you ever hear? Lessons will be learned. And you just think, but they won't.
Because they never have been.
They never have. And
absolutely.
this, 1989, this happened, and here we are in 2025, at the end of 2025, still no further.
Exactly. What do you make of the latest battles between Wes Streeting and doctors? Is pretty much every doctor, certainly anyone represented by the Medical Association, got battles with the resident, previously junior doctors over this strike call just before Christmas. That said, earlier this month, didn't we? We had those strikes, and 95% of planned surgeries and appointments did go ahead. So a lot of doctors are not taking part in these strikes, and also they kind of learnt how to sort of work around it. But there's concern that this strike is taking place just before Christmas, which has a much bigger impact. But he's also got this bizarre situation of there's been a massive increase in the number of people who are able to use online applications to get an appointment at their GP surgery. Been a massive increase in that, but also it's been so 98.7% of practices, patients can contact their surgery online. A record 8 million online requests were submitted by patients in October. So it's now more people are contacting by online than on the phone. We've actually seen an increase to 75%, still not enough, of satisfaction of people with access to their GP. It's gone up about 50 percentage points in just a year. So this is working and people are happy about it. They don't do that 8 a.m. scramble to try and get an appointment in the same they used to do. But the BMA aren't happy about that. They think that this isn't a good thing. And he's saying they're standing in the way of progress.
It's amazing to hear a Labour Secretary of State come out with something against a unionised...
and the public, I mean, and in the NHS, the deified NHS workers.
Exactly. And I think he's absolutely spot on. I think they are holding it back. I think they are stopping progress. I mean, there is a lot more that needs to be done with the online access. I'm a great fan of anything that can be done online. Unfortunately, my doctor's surgery tends to shut it, 40 minutes after it's open because they're too busy.
They're too busy. And of course, they're too busy because no one's been able to get an appointment.
Exactly.
My surgery's been pretty good on most things. The only thing is they ask all these questions. You're like, oh my God,
please don't.
Can I just? I've already told you in the first box what I need. For the love of God.
Losing the will here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some of these things, but yeah, mostly, I think it definitely works better, and certainly better than the whole 8 o'clock thing.
Oh,
I'm always amazed though when I get told, oh, sorry, you can have an appointment in 2 weeks' time. No, I need an appointment today. Otherwise, I wouldn't be bothering you.
Yeah, I'm not planning for the future here.
No, I wouldn't be bothering you.
24 to 48 hours.
I'll wait on the line. But I'm just that person. A lot of people don't do that, but they should. What do you make of these weight loss jabs? Apparently, they can cut the number of sick days people take in half because a study of 700 NHS patients using jabs like Wegovy and showed a significant boost to productivity, reduced pressure on the health service, and their time off sick had halved from 2.5 days a month to just over 1 day per month. I'm just flabbergasted. There are people who take 2.5 days off a month off sick. Genuinely, I worked here for my first 7 years, I didn't have a single day off sick. I was doing a 5-day working week, getting up at silly o'clock in the morning. I didn't take a single day off sick. What is wrong with all these people? Why are you off? Why are you off for 2.5 days a month?
I don't know. What is it they're getting at this point? Because I'd have to be sort of on my deathbed.
But you've basically got your max 23, 24 working days in a month, right? And you're taking you've got 1 in 10 days you're off sick.
I don't understand.
Seriously, have you heard of paracetamol, people?
There is nothing that serious. When I broke my pelvis, I still managed to work from home, and that was really painful.
But lots of people have but if someone's got a job where they can't work from home, that's different.
Yeah. But I
you
still
pull your
managed
back and
to
you're a
do
builder.
it.
You're not much sodding use working from home, are you?
But I could have realistically taken that time off, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Why would you? Because if you can still do something,
still
you would
work.
do it.
Yeah, it is weird, isn't it? Let's also just talk just finally about scrapping all jewellery trials. We're going to be talking about that more in the next half hour. Do you think, you've worked in Parliament a long time, you've been around these people, do you think they're going to be able to stop David Lammy scrapping jury trials for basically everyone but like 1.5% of crimes, the most serious crimes? Because there's no mandate for this in the manifesto. It does appear the entire judiciary, the entire legal world is opposed to this. A lot of MPs are opposed to this. Will the Lords be able to stop it?
I think so. I think there is so much wrong with what David Lammy is proposing that I can't see it getting through the House of Commons at all.
I thought you were just going to end with there's so much wrong with David Lammy.
I should have just ended it there, really, shouldn't I? Full stop.
There we are.
Discuss.
You think they can stop it?
I do think and I think they will.
And let's face it, they do U-turn when things get difficult.
Well, of course they do. A little bit of negative press and they tend to come right back.
This is true. 11:25 is time. Love to hear your thoughts on all of this. Love to know what you make about whether or not we should be preparing for war with Russia, whether we like it or not, whether or not you think that actually the war between the Tories and Reform UK will end in the event of a general election, either before or after, with some sort of pact. Scrap